Were you raised believing nursery rhymes were sweet little bedtime stories? That Humpty Dumpty was just an unfortunate egg? That Jack and Jill simply had terrible balance? And that three blind mice were somehow appropriate entertainment for preschoolers? Congratulations. Your childhood has been lying to you. Introducing the Pizzaverse Childhood Memory Repair Center, the only completely unlicensed facility dedicated to helping adults recover after discovering what nursery rhymes were actually talking about. Our highly questionable specialists treat symptoms including sudden distrust of Mother Goose, unexplained anxiety around wells, suspicion toward anyone named Jack, extreme concern regarding old women living inside footwear, and the overwhelming realization that apparently nobody in medieval Europe knew how to supervise a damn child. Did Ring Around the Rosie ruin recess? Did Rockabye Baby suddenly make you wonder why somebody put an infant in a tree? Did London Bridge convince you that children's entertainment once had absolutely no quality control department? We can help. Every treatment package includes our patented Mother Goose reality adjustment therapy, one complimentary security blanket, and a certified Pizzaverse counselor whispering, "Yeah, that rhyme was way darker than you remembered." Premium members also receive the Humpty Dumpty reconstruction kit. We provide the glue. You provide the emotional damage. Side effects may include excessive Googling, distrust of children's books, yelling "what the hell" at historical footnotes, and calling your mother to ask why she sang this stuff to you. The Pizzaverse Childhood Memory Repair Center. Because apparently childhood wasn't wholesome. It just had better illustrations. And remember, if the rhyme begins with children laughing, disclaimer. The following documentary is presented for educational, historical, analytical, satirical, and entertainment purposes only. Now, apparently we gotta say this because somewhere, somebody is gonna hear Humpty Dumpty and start preparing a federal case. The historical interpretations, theories, folklore, political references, cultural explanations, and possible origins discussed in this documentary are based on documented research, historical commentary, traditional accounts, and competing interpretations. Translation? Some of these nursery rhymes have clear historical connections. Some have disputed origins. And some are basically centuries-old gossip wearing a bonnet. We are not claiming that every dark interpretation is absolute fact. Because with stories this old, sometimes the evidence is solid. Sometimes it's questionable. And sometimes historians are standing around going, "Yeah, we got no damn idea." Any references to kings, queens, executions, plagues, religious conflict, political violence, murder, disease, child labor, or other unpleasant historical realities are discussed strictly within their historical context. This documentary does not encourage violence, criminal behavior, overthrowing monarchies, pushing people down hills, putting babies in treetops, stealing sheep, attacking mice, or reconstructing Humpty Dumpty without proper medical supervision. And no, Mother Goose has not retained legal counsel. Yet, any resemblance between these nursery rhyme characters and somebody in your family is between you, your ancestors, and whatever the hell happened at Thanksgiving. Viewer discretion is advised because apparently the cute little songs Grandma sang us had more bodies buried underneath them than anybody bothered to mention. So grab your security blanket, protect your childhood memories, and remember, Bambi did not ruin nursery rhymes. History handled that job centuries ago. We're just opening the file. A Pizzaverse Studios and Palermo Productions documentary, where we don't rewrite history, We excavated.
The dark truth behind every nursery rhyme. The disturbing history hidden inside childhood's most innocent songs. A Pizzaverse Studios documentary. A Palermo Productions original. Written by Bambi Palermo. Narrated by Vincent Vinny DiPrio. They were some of the first stories we ever learned. Before history books. Before documentaries. Before anybody explained that human civilization has always been just a little bit nuts. There was Mother Goose. Jack and Jill. Humpty Dumpty. Three Blind Mice. Ring Around the Rosie. Rock-a-bye Baby. Simple rhymes. Catchy melodies. Colorful illustrations. Perfectly harmless childhood entertainment. At least, that's what we were told. Because hiding behind some of the world's most familiar nursery rhymes are centuries of political conflict, religious persecution, poverty, disease, executions, royal scandals, social unrest, war, folklore, superstition, and enough disputed historical theories. To keep scholars arguing until Humpty puts himself back together. And before somebody starts screaming in the comments. No. Not every famous explanation attached to these rhymes is proven historical fact. Some connections are well documented. Others appeared centuries after the rhyme itself. Some remain fiercely debated. And a few probably originated because somebody heard a weird story in 1873 and decided, yeah, that sounds legit. But that uncertainty is exactly what makes these stories fascinating. Nursery rhymes were passed from generation to generation long before anyone could pull out a phone and check the footnotes. Words changed. Meanings changed. Verses disappeared. New interpretations appeared. And somewhere along the way, stories involving kings, plagues, executions, poverty, dead animals, falling children, abandoned babies, questionable parenting decisions, and various acts of medieval insanity became entertainment for toddlers. Wonderful. Nothing says bedtime like unresolved historical trauma. So tonight, we're going beyond the brightly colored storybooks. Beyond the melodies. Beyond the versions we learned on playgrounds and in classrooms. We're digging into the history, folklore, controversies, and disturbing theories hiding behind the nursery rhymes almost everybody knows. But very few people ever stop to question. Because once you understand where some of these stories may have come from, Mother Goose starts looking considerably less innocent. Welcome to the dark truth behind every nursery rhyme.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary. A queen burned almost 300 people alive, and then someone wrote her a nursery rhyme and hid the bodies in a garden. Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? It sounds like a question about flowers. The garden was a graveyard. The Mary in the rhyme is Mary I of England, the queen history remembers as Bloody Mary. In just 5 years on the throne in the 1500s, she had nearly 300 Protestants burned at the stake for refusing to return to the Catholic faith. So when the rhyme asks how her garden grows, the dark reading is that the garden is England, filling with graves. And the pretty little objects in the rhyme are not flowers either. The silver bells and cockle shells are remembered as nicknames for instruments of torture. The silver bells crushed a prisoner's thumbs. The cockle shells were clamped onto the genitals. And the pretty maids all in a row may not be girls at all, but the maiden, an early beheading machine that did the work of a guillotine before France ever built one. A rhyme about a garden, hiding a queen, her torture chamber, and her 300 dead. That is how this list begins. Little Jack Horner. Little Jack Horner sat in a corner, eating his Christmas pie. He puts in his thumb, pulls out a plum, and calls himself a good boy. The plum was stolen, and the pie was a bribe to the most dangerous king in English history. The story goes back to Henry VIII and the years when he was seizing the wealth of the Catholic Church and tearing the monasteries apart. The abbot of Glastonbury, one of the richest monasteries left standing, tried to save himself. He sent his steward to London with a Christmas gift for the king, a pie. Hidden inside that pie, baked into the crust, were the deeds to 12 manor estates handed over to buy the king's mercy. The steward's name was Thomas Horner, and the legend says that somewhere on the road to London, Horner reached into that pie, pulled out the single best deed for himself, the Manor of Mells, and kept it. The plum he pulled out was a stolen estate. What the rhyme never tells you is what happened to the man who sent the bribe. The abbot of Glastonbury did not get his mercy. In 1539, he was tried for treason, dragged by horses to the top of Glastonbury Tor, and hanged, drawn, and quartered. And among the jurors who condemned him sat a man named Thomas Horner. The good boy in the corner got a manor. The man who sent him got a traitor's death, signed off by his own steward. Pop goes the weasel. Up and down the city road, in and out the eagle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel. It is one of the most cheerful tunes ever written. It is about being so poor you have to sell the coat off your back. The Eagle was a real pub on the City Road in London, and it still stands today. In the old slang of the city, to pop something meant to pawn it, to hand it over to a pawnbroker for a little cash. And the weasel, in the most repeated reading, was a man's coat. So sing the line again knowing that. A working man spends what little he has drinking at the Eagle, runs out of money, and on the way home has to pawn his own coat just to get through the week. That's the way the money goes. In and out of the pub, then off to the pawn shop. The bounciest melody of your childhood is the sound of a man with empty pockets handing over the clothes off his body and doing it again the next week and the week after that. Here we go round the mulberry bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush on a cold and frosty morning. Children sing it holding hands in a circle. There is a darker story behind that circle, and it puts the children in a prison yard. The most repeated origin traces the rhyme to Wakefield Prison in England. The story goes that the women held there were marched out into the yard for exercise, walking in a slow circle around a mulberry tree that grew inside the prison walls on cold mornings, exactly like the one in the song. The cheerful little circle game children play is said to be a memory of female prisoners trudging round and round a tree in the cold, going nowhere, because going in circles was the only freedom of movement they were allowed. Every verse after that, the way we wash our hands, the way we wash our clothes, is the daily prison routine set to a tune. Lucy Locket. Two of the most famous prostitutes in London got turned into a children's rhyme, and parents have been singing it to babies for 200 years without knowing. Lucy Locket lost her pocket. Kitty Fisher found it. A sweet little rhyme about a lost purse. Lucy and Kitty were real women, and they were both prostitutes. In 18th century London, a pocket was a small pouch a woman tied around her waist, separate from her clothing, and it was where she kept her money. Lucy Locket was, by the accounts that survive, a barmaid and a prostitute, and her lost pocket was not really a purse at all. It stood for her wealthy patron, the man who paid for her company. The rhyme is about what happened when that patron ran out of money. Lucy dropped him the moment his funds were gone. And Kitty Fisher, one of the most famous courtesans in all of London, picked him up anyway, even though, as the rhyme needles, there was not a penny left in him. Not a penny was in it, only a ribbon round it. A nursery rhyme about two sex workers and the broke man they passed between them, sung to children for 200 years. Sing a song of sixpence. Sing a song of sixpence. A pocket full of rye. 24 blackbirds baked in a pie. It is pure nonsense. Birds do not survive baking. The king counting his money was Henry VIII, and the pie was the Catholic Church being torn open. In one of the oldest readings, the king in his counting house is Henry VIII, growing rich off the monasteries he was dissolving. The queen in the parlor is his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, set aside. And the maid hanging out the clothes is Anne Boleyn, the woman he broke with Rome to marry. Then read the last line again. Down came a blackbird and pecked off her nose. Anne Boleyn did not lose her nose. She lost her head. Henry had her executed by a swordsman brought over from France on charges almost everyone now believes were invented to be rid of her. The maid in the garden in this reading is a queen about to be beheaded by the same king counting his money in the opening line. One quick note, because you have probably heard it. There is a popular story that this rhyme was a secret code used by the pirate Blackbeard to recruit his crew. That one is not an old secret at all. It was invented as a deliberate hoax in 1999, and it fooled the entire internet. The real darkness here is older, and it has a Tudor queen's head in it. So far, these rhymes have hidden a torturer, a thief, and a beheading. But the next ones are not about the powerful at all. They are about the people the powerful stepped on. And the last rhyme on this list was a coded warning that could get you killed for singing it. Old Mother Hubbard. Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to fetch her poor dog a bone. When she got there, the cupboard was bare. There was no old woman and no dog. There was a cardinal who failed his king and was destroyed for it. The most repeated reading says Old Mother Hubbard is Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, one of the most powerful men in England under Henry VIII. The bone the dog wanted was a divorce. Henry desperately wanted his marriage to Catherine of Aragon annulled so he could marry Anne Boleyn, and it was Wolsey's job to get the Pope to agree. The cupboard was bare. Wolsey went to Rome for the king's annulment, and he came back with nothing. The Pope refused. For that failure, the second most powerful man in the country lost everything. Stripped of his offices, his palaces seized by the king he had served, Wolsey was arrested for treason. He died on the journey to London to face trial, which may have been the only thing that saved him from the executioner's block. The doting old woman and her hungry dog are a king who did not get what he wanted, and the servant he ruined for it. Wee Willie Winkie. Wee Willie Winkie runs through the town, upstairs and downstairs in his nightgown. He sounds like a harmless little bedtime figure. He was the face of a government telling you when you were allowed to be awake in your own home. The reading here is about the curfew. In a time when authorities were imposing strict curfews on ordinary towns, telling people when they had to be off the streets and in their beds, Wee Willie Winkie was the figure who enforced it. Running through the town, rapping at the windows, crying through the locks. Are the children all in bed? For now it's 8 o'clock. It seems gentle until you sit with it. A man moving house to house after dark, checking whether you and your children are where the rules say you should be, and reporting it if you are not. The cozy nightgown hides a curfew officer, and the bedtime rhyme is really about a town where your own evening was no longer your own. Ba ba black sheep. Ba ba black sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, 3 bags full. The first song most of us ever learned. It is a complaint about a tax that left the working man with nothing. Most scholars tie this rhyme to the Great Custom, a tax on wool introduced in England in 1275. Wool was the backbone of the medieval English economy, and the crown taxed it heavily. Read the rhyme as a ledger, 3 bags full, 1 for the master, 1 for the dame, and 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. The master is the king or the noble. The dame is the church or the merchant class. And by the time the powerful have each taken their share, the little boy who actually raised the sheep, the working man at the bottom, is left with the last bag, if he is lucky. There is a darker modern footnote too. In the late 20th century, the rhyme was caught up in fights over its use of the word black, with some places trying to ban or rewrite it. A song about a medieval tax became a battleground all over again, centuries later. Lady Bird. People sang this one to warn each other to run before the soldiers came to burn them alive. Today, we say it to a beetle. Lady bird, fly away home. Your house is on fire and your children are gone. The word ladybird comes from Our Lady, the Catholic name for the Virgin Mary. And after England broke from Rome, being a practicing Catholic became dangerous and then deadly. Under the laws that followed, priests were forbidden to say Mass. Those caught faced prison, and many priests were executed in the most brutal ways the era had, burned at the stake, or hanged, drawn, and quartered. So Catholics held Mass in secret, out in open fields, away from the eyes of the authorities. And the reading of this rhyme is that it was a warning, sung in code. Lady bird, fly away home, telling the faithful to flee before the soldiers came. Your house is on fire, your children are gone. The burning of the church and the killing of its priests, all except one, and her name is Anne, and she crept under the warming pan, the last believer, hiding, waiting to be hunted down. A rhyme we teach to children so that an insect will fly off a fingertip began as the sound of people warning each other to run before they were burned for how they prayed. Georgie Porgy, pudding and pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. You've known that since you were 3. The man it's about was stabbed through the heart in a doorway in Portsmouth in 1628. When the news reached London, the city celebrated in the streets. Goosey, goosey, gander.
Goosey, goosey, gander, where shall I wander? Upstairs, downstairs. stairs, and in my lady's chamber, there I met an old man who wouldn't say his prayers. I took him by the left leg and threw him down the stairs.
From the 1530s onward, being a Catholic priest in England was a crime. Under Elizabeth I, it became high treason. The punishment was hanging, drawing, and quartering. Not just the priest. The family who hid him faced the same. So they built hiding places, small rooms behind walls, under floors, inside chimneys. Some were barely big enough to sit in. A man named Nicholas Owen built most of them. He was a carpenter and a Jesuit lay brother. For decades, he moved between Catholic houses across England, building rooms that could not be found. Another Jesuit priest, John Gerard, spent years moving between these houses. He wrote about it later. On one search, he hid in an Owen-built hole for 4 days without food. He could not stand upright. He could not stretch his legs. He could not sleep. The pursuivants, the state-funded priest hunters, worked through the house around him for 4 days. They tore up plaster. They pulled down paneling. They pushed swords into gaps in the walls. When they left, Gerard emerged from what he called what would indeed have been his tomb if the search had continued a little longer. Owen was caught in 1606. He was taken to the Tower of London. They put him on the rack. He said nothing. Not one name, not one location. He died under torture on March 2nd, 1606. He was canonized in 1970. The old man in the rhyme who wouldn't say his prayers was not stubborn. He refused to say them in English, under the Protestant prayer book. Left leg was slang for Catholic. Threw him down the stairs was what happened when the soldiers found it. Nicholas Owen's hiding places are still being found today. The soldiers are long gone. The rooms are still there. No. 3 blind mice.
3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all run off to the farmer's wife who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you see such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice?
In 1609, Thomas Ravenscroft published a book of rounds and catches. One of them was 3 blind mice. The version in that book is not what you know. There are no tails, no farmer's wife chasing anyone, no carving knife. The original reads, "The miller and his merry old wife, she scraped her tripe, licked thou the knife." That version sat in print for 200 years. Nobody changed it. Nobody rewrote it. It just sat there, in its original form, being ignored. Then in 1842, a collector named James Orchard Hallowell published a book of nursery rhymes for children. He included 3 blind mice. By then, the tripe was gone. The knife was a carving knife used on mouse tails. The miller and Dame Julian had disappeared entirely. What was left was something a child could follow. The rhyme had been gutted, and the clean version was the one that survived. Nobody announced this. Nobody said the original had been changed. The 1609 text still exists. Nobody removed it. They just stopped reading it. The version taught to children today is 233 years younger than the original. Most people singing it have no idea there was an earlier one. Most people teaching it don't either. Georgie Porgy.
Georgie Porgy, pudding and pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away.
George Villiers was born in 1592 in Leicestershire. His father died when he was 13. He had no money, no connections, and no prospects. What he had was a face that people remembered. In 1614, he turned up at the court of King James I. Within a year, he was a knight. Within 3 years, he was an earl. Within 9 years, he was the Duke of Buckingham, the only duke in England who was not a member of the royal family. He got all of it because James I loved him. Not admired, loved. James said so himself. In 1617, he stood in front of the Privy Council and said, "You may be sure that I love the Earl of Buckingham more than anyone else, and more than you who are here assembled. Christ had John, and I have George." The diarist Sir John Oglander watched it happen and wrote, "I never yet saw any fond husband make so much or so great dalliance over his beautiful spouse as I have seen King James over his favorites, especially the Duke of Buckingham." His letters to Villiers are in the historical record. He called him his sweet child and wife. Villiers wrote back that he desired only to live in the world for the king's sake. In one letter, Villiers asked the king whether he loved him now as much as he had at Farnham. where the bed's head could not be found between the master and his dog. He called the king Dad. He signed letters, "Your humble slave," and "Dog." A secret passage connecting their bedchambers was found during renovation work at Apethorpe Palace in 2004. Villiers used his position to place his relatives in every major office in England. Nobody could stop him because the king would not hear it. The Bishop of Gloucester called him the handsomest-bodied man in all of England. When James died in 1625, Villiers kept his grip on power under the new king, Charles I. He led a naval expedition to Spain in 1625. Disaster. He led another to France in 1627. Worse. Parliament tried to remove him twice. Charles dissolved Parliament both times to protect him. On August 23, 1628, a naval lieutenant named John Felton stabbed him through the heart in a doorway in Portsmouth. When the news reached London, the city celebrated in the streets. Poets wrote verses about it. Pamphlets called Felton a hero. Villiers was buried in the Henry VII Chapel at Westminster Abbey. King James I is buried there too. They are next to each other. The man who stood in front of the Privy Council and said Christ had John and I have George, and the man he said it about, in the same chapel. That is where they ended up. Oranges and lemons.
Oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's. You owe me 5 farthings, say the bells of St. Martin's. When will you pay me, say the bells of Old Bailey. When I grow rich, say the bells of Shoreditch.
St. Clement's, St. Martin's, Old Bailey, Shoreditch, Stepney, Bow, all of them still stand in London. They are not listed because of their bells. They are listed because of what happened between them. Condemned prisoners held in Newgate Prison were taken by cart through the streets of London to be executed. The route passed each of those churches. As the cart moved through the city, each church bell tolled. The prisoners heard every one. In 1605, a merchant tailor named John Dow donated money to the Church of St. Sepulchre without Newgate, which stands directly opposite the prison, to commission a handbell. The bellman's job was to walk to the condemned cells the night before the execution, stand outside the door, ring the bell, and recite a verse. The verse said this: "All you that in the condemned hold do lie, prepare you, for tomorrow you shall die. Watch all and pray, the hour is drawing near, that you before the Almighty must appear. And when St. Sepulchre's bell in the morning tolls, the Lord above have mercy on your souls." This was done at midnight, in the dark, through a closed door, for 200 years. The bells of Old Bailey in the rhyme are the bells of St. Sepulchre. The candle to light you to bed is the bellman's candle. The chopper is the axe. The execution handbell John Dow paid for in 1605 is on display in St. Sepulchre without Newgate today. It is in a glass case. The church is open to visitors. Children sang the rhyme about it for 300 years without knowing what the bells were for. Number 2. Rock-a-bye Baby.
Rock-a-bye baby on a treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. If the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. But Mama will catch you, cradle and all.
The rhyme first appeared in print in 1765 in a book called Mother Goose's Melody. The publisher added a footnote. It said, "This may serve as a warning to the proud and ambitious who climb so high that they generally fall at last." That footnote is the oldest surviving explanation of the rhyme. Not sweet, not gentle, a warning. On June 10, 1688, a boy named James Francis Edward was born in London. His father was King James II. His birth changed everything. James II had converted to Catholicism. For years, English Protestants had been waiting out his reign, knowing that his daughter Mary, a Protestant, would inherit the throne. Then a son arrived, a Catholic heir. The succession they feared had come. Rumors spread immediately. People said the baby was not James's at all, that another child had been smuggled into the birthing chamber in a warming pan to fake a Catholic birth. The rumor was false, but it spread because people needed it to be true, because the alternative, a Catholic dynasty on the English throne, was something they were not willing to accept. 5 months later, William of Orange sailed from the Netherlands with an army. The wind that pushed his fleet across the Channel was called the Protestant wind in the pamphlets of the time. James II's own officers defected. He fled to France in December 1688. He never came back. James Francis Edward, the baby, spent the rest of his life in Rome, in a palace the Pope gave him. He could have had the throne at any point. All he had to do was convert to the Church of England. He refused every time anyone asked. He was a Catholic. That was the thing his father had been deposed for. He would not give it up for a crown. He died on January 1st, 1766, New Year's Day. His body lay in state for 5 days. He was buried in the crypt of St. Peter's Basilica. 2 months after his death, the royal arms of England were removed from the door of his palace in Rome. History called him the Old Pretender. He called himself James III. The wind in the rhyme is the fleet from the Netherlands. The bow is the Stuart monarchy. The cradle is the royal house. And down will come baby is what actually happened. The publisher knew this in 1765. They put it in a footnote and called it a warning. Then they put the book in nurseries. Ring Around the Rosie.
Ring around the rosies, a pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Here's the thing about Ring Around the Rosie and the plague. The plague theory goes like this. The rosy ring is the rash. The posies are herbs to block the smell of death. The ashes are the dead. We all fall down means what it sounds like. Most people alive today were told this at some point. It feels true. It has the weight of something old. Peter and Iona Opie were the leading authorities on nursery rhymes in the 20th century. In 1951, they looked at the plague theory and dismissed it. They wrote later that they had heard it so many times they were reluctant to leave the house. The rhyme was first printed in 1881. The plague theory was first published in 1961 in a book by a man named James Leeser. The debunking came a full decade before the myth was even put into print. The myth won anyway. The real origin, as folklorists can establish, is a Protestant dancing ban in 19th century Britain and America. Adolescents were not allowed to dance, so they invented play parties, ring games that looked like dancing but weren't called that. Ring Around the Rosie was one of them. The falling down was a curtsy. That is what the rhyme was, a workaround for a rule about dancing. Millions of people taught it to their children as a song about mass death. They did it because it felt true, because dark things disguised as innocent ones feel more real than innocent things that are simply innocent. Because we are better at passing on the stories we believe than at stopping to check whether we should believe them. The Opie said this in 1951. Nobody listened. The rhyme still gets taught. The plague theory still gets passed on. Nothing in it changed. Rub-a-dub-dub. Rub-a-dub-dub. 3 men in a tub. You know it as a silly little bath time song. 3 tradesmen, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, having a nice splash about. In the original, there were no men in the tub at all. There were 3 women, and the men were watching them. The earliest printed version, from the 18th century, does not read the way you learned it. It reads, "Hey rub-a-dub, ho rub-a-dub, 3 maids in a tub. And who do you think were there? The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker." So the 3 respectable tradesmen are not in the water. They are the audience. What they were looking at was a fairground attraction. Traveling fairs of the period had sideshow tents where, for a fee, men could pay to look at young women bathing. It was exactly what it sounds like. The nearest modern equivalent would be a strip club with a queue outside. And that is the joke of the rhyme. Forget bathing entirely. This is a piece of gossip about the pillars of the community. The butcher, the baker, the man who sells you your candles, all queuing up at the fair to ogle naked women in a tub and getting caught at it. At some point in the 19th century, somebody looked at that and decided children should sing it. So they moved the men into the tub, took the women out entirely, and the dirtiest joke in the nursery became a song about bath time. London Bridge is falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. A children's game where 2 kids make an arch with their arms, and everyone runs underneath until the arch comes down and traps someone, which is the part people find unsettling once they hear the theory, because the arch comes down and catches a person. And one old explanation for this rhyme says that is exactly what the bridge was built on. The theory is called immurement. The belief, found in folklore across Europe, was that a bridge would not stand unless a living person was sealed into its foundations. The body would hold the structure up and stand guard over it forever. And the folklorist Alice Gomes, writing in the 1890s, pointed at the line, "Take the key and lock her up," and suggested that London Bridge had been built the same way, with children walled into the stone. She wrote that the bridge's stones were spattered with the blood of little children. Now, here is where the story turns, and it turns in a direction most videos will not tell you. There is no evidence for it, none. No archaeological find, no record, nothing. In 2007, skeletons were found beneath London Bridge, and it went round the world as proof, until the archaeologists pointed out the bones were in an old tomb, which is a normal thing to find under a very old city, and had nothing to do with the foundations. The other popular theory, that the rhyme remembers a Viking attack in 1014, when Olaf of Norway pulled the bridge down, has its own problem. A number of historians do not believe that attack happened at all. So what is left is a nursery rhyme that has been sung for centuries about a bridge that genuinely did keep falling down, because medieval London kept building it out of wood, and the Thames kept freezing, and fires kept taking it. The truth is that the bridge was just badly built. The child sacrifice was something people added later because it made a better story. Hold on to that because it happens again. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Everyone knows Humpty is an egg. Everyone also knows the clever version, the one you tell people at parties, that Humpty was actually a cannon in the English Civil War. Both of those are made up. And the second one is more recent than most people watching this. Start with the egg. There is nothing in the rhyme that says egg. Read the words again. It never mentions one. Humpty became an egg because Lewis Carroll put him in through the looking glass in 1871 and drew him as one. That is decades after the rhyme first appeared. Before Carroll, Humpty Dumpty meant a drink of ale boiled with brandy, and it meant a short, clumsy person. The original was almost certainly a riddle, and the answer to the riddle was egg, which is exactly why the rhyme never says it. Now the canon. The story goes that Humpty Dumpty was a great gun mounted on the church tower at St. Mary at the Walls during the siege of Colchester in 1648, that Parliament's guns brought the wall down, and that all the king's men could not get it back up. It is a wonderful story. It appears to have been attached to the rhyme by Colchester's own tourist board website in 1996. Colchester has since put up an information board at the wall itself, explaining to the people who come looking that there is no evidence the rhyme has anything to do with the siege. The town that the myth was invented for is now the town politely debunking it. So the most famous nursery rhyme in the English language is a riddle whose answer everyone forgot, wearing a costume drawn by a Victorian novelist, carrying a war story invented for a tourism website in the 1990s. Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after, a little accident on a hillside. Broke his crown. Hold that phrase. The most repeated dark reading of this rhyme puts it in France in 1793. Jack is King Louis XVI, who went to the guillotine in January of that year. Jill is Marie Antoinette, who followed him to the same blade 9 months later. He lost his crown, she came tumbling after. It is a tidy fit, and there is a problem with it, which is that the rhyme was in print in England before the French king lost his head. The chronology does not work. Like the canon, it is a story that got attached afterward because it was too neat to resist. But underneath that, there's something genuinely old. Scandinavian folklore has a tale about two children, Huki and Bill, who are carrying a pail of water when the moon reaches down and takes them, and you can still see them up there in the moon's face with the pail slung between them. That story is centuries older than the English rhyme, and the names, worn down by time and English mouths, are not far from Jack and Jill. So the true origin, if it is the true origin, is stranger than the guillotine. Forget two children falling down a hill. Picture two children being stolen by the moon. Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater. Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her. Put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well. A silly rhyme about a man and a giant vegetable. Read the second line again, slowly. He had a wife and could not keep her. Then he put her somewhere she could not leave. The rhyme is about a man whose wife was unfaithful, or who left him, and what he did about it. Put her in a pumpkin shell means confinement, and there he kept her very well is the rhyme congratulating him for it. The problem was a woman woman he could not control, and the solution was a box she could not get out of. Every reading of this rhyme circles the same thing. The pumpkin is a prison. The most repeated interpretation is imprisonment. The darker versions of the story that circulate hold that he did not confine her at all, but killed her and hid her body, and the pumpkin shell is where he put her. What is not in dispute is the shape of it. A husband, a wife he could not keep, and a solution that ends with her in a container and him telling you it worked out nicely. We teach this one to toddlers with hand actions. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. A funny picture, a giant boot, a crowd of kids, a harmless bit of nonsense. The next line is the one everybody skips. She gave them some broth without any bread, then whipped them all soundly and put them to bed. That is the whole rhyme. A woman with more children than she can feed, giving them thin broth with nothing to go with it, and then beating every one of them before they sleep. There is no code here, no hidden Tudor king, no clever second meaning. This is the rare rhyme that is exactly as dark as it sounds. It is a snapshot of poverty so grinding that the food runs out and the violence does not. And the fact that it comes wrapped in a comedy shoe is the only reason anyone can sing it to a child. People have tried to make it about politics. One reading says the old woman is King George III, with his enormous family and his troublesome colonies. Another says the shoe is Britain, and the children are the poor. But the plainest reading is the one nobody reaches for, because it is not clever enough to be interesting. Some women had more children than they could feed. The food ran out, and the violence did not. And somebody watched that happen often enough to set it to a tune. This is the only rhyme on this list that needed no hidden meaning, no buried king, and no invented atrocity. It just told you what it was, and we stopped listening at the shoe. Little Miss Muffet. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider, who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. A tiny story about a girl and a spider. The girl was real. So was the spider, and the man who wrote the rhyme was the reason she was terrified of them, because he had been feeding them to her. Dr. Thomas Muffet was a 16th century English physician, and more importantly, he was obsessed with insects. He wrote an entire book about them. He kept them. He was, by some distance, the most enthusiastic spider enthusiast in England. And like many physicians of his era, he was convinced that spiders had medicinal properties. The rhyme is traditionally said to be about his stepdaughter, Patience. So picture the scene properly. A small girl sits outside eating curds and whey, which is essentially cottage cheese. A spider comes near her, and she does not just flinch, she runs. Because in the traditional telling, she lives in a house with a man who studies spiders, breeds spiders, and prescribes them as medicine, crushed into a paste, mixed into food, swallowed whole and still moving, depending on the ailment. The spider in the rhyme stops being a random garden visitor. It becomes the specific thing this child has learned means she is about to be made to swallow something alive. Scholars do dispute whether the rhyme is really about Muffet's household. It may be nothing more than a girl and a spider, but once you have heard the version where the physician was dosing his own stepdaughter with live arachnids, it is very difficult to hear the rhyme any other way. Dr. Foster. Dr. Foster went to Gloucester in a shower of rain. He stepped in a puddle right up to his middle and never went there again. A tiny rhyme about a man and some bad weather. The Dr. Foster in the rhyme is generally said to be King Edward I of England, and the reason he never went back is that a puddle humiliated him in front of his own army. Edward was the king they called Longshanks, and the Hammer of the Scots. He was enormous, ferocious, and genuinely terrifying. A man who conquered Wales, brutalized Scotland, and expelled every Jew from England. People did not laugh at Edward I. Then he rode through Gloucester. The story attached to this rhyme is that the king took his horse into what looked like a shallow puddle in the road. It was deep. Deep enough that the horse went in up to its middle and stuck fast in the mud. And the King of England, the Hammer of the Scots, had to be hauled out of a hole in the street by his own men, soaked to the waist and covered in filth in front of the entire town. He was so humiliated that he refused to ever enter Gloucester again. That is the whole joke of the rhyme, and it is a joke the people of Gloucester made about their king and then kept making for 700 years. Dr. Foster was never a doctor at all. He is a monarch who terrified an entire island undone by a puddle and punished for it in the only way the powerless have ever been able to punish the powerful. They put him in a song, and they gave the song to their children, and the children sang it forever. And that is the thread through all of this.
And there you have it. The nursery rhymes we grew up with were not always the harmless little bedtime songs we thought they were. Behind the cheerful melodies and picture book illustrations are centuries of folklore, politics, fear, superstition, tragedy, social commentary, and enough historical confusion to make Mother Goose need a damn legal team. Some of these darker interpretations are strongly supported. Some are debated. Some may have been attached to the rhymes long after they were first sung. But every one of them reminds us of something important. Stories change. Meanings disappear. History gets polished, simplified, and handed down until the sharp edges are almost impossible to see. Almost. Because if there is one thing we do around here, it is look underneath the pretty version. We ask where the story came from. Who changed it? What got forgotten? And why generations of children were apparently expected to sing about falling babies, broken heads, missing sheep, plague theories, royal executions, and people getting thrown down hills without anybody asking a single follow-up question. Seriously. Childhood was wild. So the next time somebody starts singing an old nursery rhyme, maybe listen a little closer. Because underneath that innocent little melody, there may be a few hundred years of history quietly staring back at you.
Before you go, if you enjoyed digging through the darker side of childhood history, make sure you subscribe to Bambi Palermo and the Pizzaverse. We cover hidden history, organized crime, psychology, old Hollywood, dark fairy tales, strange legends, and the stories powerful people would probably prefer you never examine too closely. And if this documentary permanently ruined Rockabye Baby for you, you're welcome. Hit the like button, leave a comment, and tell us which nursery rhyme surprised you the most. And to everybody who watches, shares, comments, supports the channel, and keeps showing up. Thank you to the real ones. You're the reason we keep digging. Stay sharp. Stay skeptical. Stay authentic. See you at the next one.
Spirit Halloween presents. This Halloween, why dress like a regular gangster when you can show up dressed as a full-blown MobTube comment section with legs? Introducing the Dominic Cicali costume. Perfect for Halloween parties, live streams, podcasts, and any social gathering where somebody eventually says, "Bro, weren't you just arguing with that guy last week?" This deluxe costume comes fully loaded with everything you need to recreate the internet wise guy experience. Included in the box, one oversized microphone of authority. Because nothing makes an opinion more official than saying it 3 inches from a microphone. The limited edition loyalty meter. Watch it change from brother for life to who the hell is that guy, depending on which live stream you watched last. Authentic YouTube beef starter kit. Just add Wi-Fi. The Storytime chair, engineered specifically for sitting down and explaining what really happened for 47 minutes. One pair of internet aviators, scientifically designed to increase dramatic storytelling by approximately 63%. The official I know a guy Rolodex names may change without notice. Bonus podcast headset for immediately responding to something somebody said about you on another podcast. And for a limited time, every costume includes the revolutionary MobTube relationship calendar. Monday, that's my brother. Tuesday, We had a misunderstanding. Wednesday, I never trusted that guy. Thursday, 3-hour live stream. Friday, reunion show. Saturday, another misunderstanding. Sunday, I'm done with YouTube. Monday morning, live now. Accessories sold separately include the algorithm fedora, the Super Chat collection plate, the emergency screenshot folder, and the incredibly popular receipts briefcase containing absolutely everything you need to announce, "Bambi, pull that clip up." Warning: wearing the Dominic Secal costume may cause spontaneous storytelling, excessive hand gestures, unexplained microphone appearances, podcast invitations, heated comment sections, and the uncontrollable urge to explain events beginning with, "All right, let me tell you what really happened." Spirit Halloween is not responsible for broken alliances, deleted live streams, demonetization, angry thumbnails, or 12-part response videos. So this Halloween, forget vampires, forget zombies, forget Frankenstein, because nothing scares YouTube quite like seeing someone you used to collaborate with go live. The Dominic Secal costume. Available exclusively at the imaginary Spirit Halloween MobTube collection. Batteries not included, Wi-Fi unfortunately required. No actual criminal activity included. That costs extra.
Well, I'ma tell you like this. I am not the one, little son. Better run with a gun. I'ma tell you like this. Fuck you and fuck where you from. Gotta say the word once and it's done. I'ma tell you like this. We can get it crackin', little bitch. Boy, quit without that attitude, sis. I'ma tell you like this. Better man up, lil' jit. Let me know if it's a problem, is lit. Still a big talker, cause I got the biggest follow through. I follow money, you tryna get hoes to follow you. I am mad at you. How you hung around me and your dumb ass never learned how to keep it G. God damn it, sickening. Hope you listening. Post how you the realest, but you know it's different. Say you got them dividends, talking about them Benjamins. I ain't even gonna violate and talk about what I lend, but keep my name out your bitch ass mouth. Sure, there's other ways you can get that clout. You can dick ride like you do behind the scenes, cause you be switching sides like you LGBT, but I know that boy's around. I know he gon' keep talking. I wasn't raised like that, but I don't come around them types often. Tell you like this, that, pull up where you at. You know we can get the shit poppin'. Tell you like this, that, pull up where you at. You know we can get the shit. Bro, I'ma tell you like this. I am not the one, little son. Better run with a gun. I'ma tell you like this. Fuck you and fuck where you from. Gotta say the word once and it's done. I'ma tell you like this. We can get it crackin', little bitch. Boy, quit without that attitude, sis. I'ma tell you like this. Better man up, lil' jit. Let me know if it's a problem, is lit. I got a couple reasons, some of these dudes is turning to haters. I'm a motherfucking reminder how they can never make it. I'm up in this shit and I never needed no one. I'm a business bitch, you gotta pay me to show up. I got that energy, you know that energy, that BDE shit. That I don't really know why that bitch intimidate me shit. That you can't lease this wavy baby make you seasick. That killing you with everything I do, bitch, rest in pieces. You fucking buffoon, thinking you fucking with me. It's ironic I'm a CEO and don't need company. Look, I'm up in these prices so dummies don't come to me. Asking me to give them verses and they wanna come for me. You a whole asshole if you a dude and hate bitches, but your eyes light up when a dude's name's mentioned. Bro, compliment a woman, then you tell him stop simping. Bro, you got vagina envy, tell your homie to stick the tip in. You sus in the comments, you sus in real life. Imagine making fake pages just to speak your own mind. God damn, that must suck, you hate yourself and know why. Seek help, little bitch, before you take your own life. Shit, bro, I'ma tell you like this. I am not the one, little son. Better run with a gun. I'ma tell you like this. Fuck you and fuck where you from. Gotta say the word once and it's done. I'ma tell you like this. We can get it crackin', little bitch. Boy, quit without that attitude, sis. I'ma tell you like this. Better man up, lil' jit. Let me know if it's a problem, is lit.